Since Bryce wasn't willing to help, Natalie could only rely on herself. She had to find her child. She absolutely couldn't let her father and the others win. She decided to return to her family home, but didn't go in through the main entrance. Instead, she sneaked around the back through the garden, carefully avoiding all the surveillance cameras. Her father had taken Liam, so the first place she thought he might have taken him was this house. If her father had hidden him in any corner of this place, she would find him, leave with him, and never return. But she looked all over, and there was no sign of him. He simply wasn't there. She wondered where else he might be when she heard a voice say, "Wow, I'm so tired." It was Cheryl. Natalie panicked, but she hid behind a large pot plant before she was seen, using the dense foliage to shield herself from view. Through the gaps between the leaves, she saw Cheryl and Nick slowly walking towards her. "If you're tired, why don't we go and lie down?" Nick said, raising his eyebrows with a suggestive smile. "You're so annoying," Cheryl scolded playfully. Nick wrapped his arms around her, pulled her towards him, and lightly touched the tip of her nose. "I know you like it. Why won't you admit it?" "You're so annoying, so I'm ignoring you," she replied. Cheryl continued to tease Nick, pretended to be angry and turned her face away, but Nick knew she was just pretending. As Natalie watched the two of them and listened to their sweet exchange, bitterness surged up inside her, and she quietly clenched her hands by her sides, digging her nails into her palms. When they had been together, Nick had teased her like this. Back then, she had thought that he loved her, and that they would spend the rest of their lives together. But this lack of trust in her after the incident had completely destroyed her feelings for him. When she thought about how she had once felt about this piece of trash, she wanted to laugh. "I really must have been blind," she thought. What Cheryl said next stopped Natalie's mind from wandering and focused her attention. "Dad told me to take care of that annoying kid," Cheryl said casually. Natalie listened attentively. "He's at the hotel by himself. If anything happens, there'll be trouble, but I really don't want to go," Cheryl said with a pout. Nick frowned. He hated Liam. The boy's existence reminded him of Natalie's betrayal all those years ago, but he was proving useful to the Davidson family in their attempts to negotiate a business relationship with the Clare family. So he weighed up the pros and cons, suppressed his disgust, and said to Cheryl with a smile, "I'll go with you." "Really?" she said, pleasantly surprised. He nodded. "Come on, let's go." Natalie watched Cheryl and Nick as they headed down the hallway, and then she followed them quietly all the way to the hotel without them realizing it. However, when she reached the front door, she was stopped by the concierge. "Miss, may I see your membership card?" he asked. "Membership card?" Natalie frowned. Seeing her confusion, the concierge explained, "Our hotel requires you to hold a membership card to enter." Natalie didn't have a membership card. She could only watch as Cheryl and Nick disappeared from sight. She sighed in frustration, stepped back, and looked up at the hotel. She still had no real idea where Liam was being kept. Meanwhile, in the restaurant on the second floor of the hotel overlooking the street, Bryce was eating with his parents. Robert and Michelle Clare had been living abroad for a long time, and it was rare for them to return to the UK. So Bryce had cancelled his previous engagements to meet them at the hotel for dinner. According to Bryce's mother, it was the cause of some anxiety that her son didn't even have a girlfriend, despite being 32 years old. In her view, he should have been married long before then. "Bryce, when are you going to get married?" she asked as she put down the spoon and glared with dissatisfaction at Bryce, who was sitting opposite her. "When it's time, of course," he replied dismissively. Michelle was visibly irritated by Bryce's glib response. "You always talk back to your father and me. I'm not sure you'll ever get married, but if you do, we'd still like to be around to attend any wedding." "Mother, don't talk like that," he said, lifting his hand and rubbing his temples. He looked at her helplessly. I will get married, but I won't rush into anything. Michelle let out a heavy sigh, and her tone became more gentle. I know you've been very busy these past few years, so busy that you didn't have time to think about your personal life. But now that the company is growing so steadily, it's time for you to make a plan. Your father and I would dearly love grandchildren. Michelle said this while nudging Robert, who was sitting beside her. He was surprised, but he reacted quickly. Your mother's right. Now that the business is stable, you should relax. Find a girlfriend, get married, start a family. Do they think I can find a girlfriend just anywhere? Bryce wondered. That I can get married just like that. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He shook his head, and then, out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of a woman standing outside the hotel entrance downstairs. His gaze suddenly turned cold. What's she doing here? He wondered. Michelle noticed immediately that something was wrong with him, and frowned. Bryce, are you all right? He looked away and shook his head. It's nothing. He lowered his head to eat, but his eyes kept flicking back to look at the woman outside. He hadn't expected her to follow him here. If he had known she would do this, he would never have helped her in the first place. Apparently, he couldn't shake her off so easily, and a wave of irritation washed over him. He withdrew his gaze and continued eating, pretending he hadn't seen her. Downstairs, Natalie didn't know that Bryce had spotted her. She continued to look up at the hotel, her teeth nibbling at her lower lip, her pretty little face clearly annoyed. She knew that Liam was inside, but she couldn't reach him. She was livid. It didn't matter, though. As long as he was here, she had time to find a way to get him out. The most important thing right now was figuring out how to get into the hotel. Just when she felt at a loss for what to do, she saw a notice in the window next to her. The hotel was hiring waiters and waitresses. Natalie's eyes lit up, and renewed hope welled up inside her. She tore down the advertisement, returned to the concierge, and showed it to him. I'm here to apply for a job.
Don't let your excitement die! The full audio series is on the Pocket FM app. Tap the link in the description to install now.